So yeah, let's read this thing. It has been suggested that this article be split into a new article titled Teleological Ethics. Wait, split into a new article? Oh, so right, there's a lot of teleological ethics in this article, and they would want to tear all that out and put it into teleological ethics. Right. All right, that's fine, I guess. That doesn't bother me. So let's see here. Consequentialism is a class of normative. Normative ethics is the study of ethical behavior. Wait. How do you do that? Normative ethics is the study of ethical behavior, and is the branch of philosophical ethics that investigates the questions that arise regarding how one ought to act in a moral sense. Normative ethics is distinct from metaethics in that the former examines standards for the rightness and wrongness of actions, whereas the latter studies the meaning, moral language, and the metaphysics of moral facts. This article needs additional citations for verification. Please help improving this article by adding citations to reliable sources. Unsourced material may be challenged or removed. Not a single reference here. Moral facts. Likewise, normative ethics is distinct from applied ethics, in that the former is more concerned with who ought one be. That's normative. Who ought one be, rather than the ethics of specific issues. Ah, right. Yeah, I like both types of discussions, but yeah, consequentialism is who ought one be. Normative ethics is also distinct from descriptive ethics, as the latter has an empirical investigation of people's moral beliefs. Yeah. Yeah, right. So I understand this now, I think. It's not metaethics, it examines the standards. I missed that word. That is why, yeah. Former examines the standards for the rightness and wrongness of actions. Oh man, I don't like these words. I don't like the words. So what is teleological then? I don't know that word. Ethical theories? Teleological, I've heard that word before, is a broader class of views in moral philosophy which consequentialism falls under. All right. In general, proponents of teleological ethics argue that the moral value of any act consists in its tendency to produce things of intrinsic value, meaning that an act is right if and only if it or the rule under which it falls produces will probably produce or is intended to produce a greater balance of good over evil than any alternative act. This concept is exemplified by the famous aphorism. The end justify the means. Yeah, that is the discussion that I'm interested in. I've been so focused on intent for such a long time that I've kind of neglected this part of ethics, I feel like. If a goal is morally important enough, any method of achieving it is acceptable. Yeah, they're being very extremist, but I mean, that is the way of things when you study ethics. They are being very extremist, which is, it's easier to explain the ideas, right? When you explain them from an extremist point of view, that doesn't mean necessarily that we have to be extremist about the thing. Like saying that the end justify the means, we don't have to agree with it, with the statements right out, straight off the bat, right? We can make decisions. That's the benefit of subjective morality, I suppose. That one gets to decide. So consequentialism is a class of normative teleological ethical theories. Yeah, I like this suggestion, because I would rather read this article right now to get the bird's eye view rather than the consequentialistic view. Since it has not been split up, just stick with it. I'm guessing this is the most common one. It's just people that have disagreed and split out teleological stuff from consequentialism, saying that, yeah, something like that. That holds that the consequences of one's conduct are the ultimate basis for any judgment about the rightness or wrongness of that conduct. Ugh. Like Hume didn't even matter to them. Thus, from a consequentialist standpoint, a morally right act or omission from acting is one that will produce a good outcome. I need to get over that. The language thing when reading this article, I think. Consequentialism, along with eudaimonism, eudaimonism. It's a eudaimonia is a Greek word commonly translated to happiness or welfare. However, more accurately, translation have been proposed to be human flourishing, prosperity, and blessedness. They fall under a broader category of teleological ethics, a group of views which claims that the moral value of any act consists in its tendency to produce things of intrinsic value. Yeah, we talked about that the other day. I'm still a little bit interesting, because this thing in itself doesn't have intrinsic value. Like intrinsic value implies the value judgment, right? So it would be true. Yeah, I need to get over the language, but in my mind, it's my interpretation of this is a tendency to produce things that people consider having, like people experience intrinsic value of. There we go. Yeah, Colgate InnoTaps asked me yesterday about if I feel that democracy, like the method for increasing democracy, has intrinsic value for me. And I answered no yesterday, but when I thought more about it, I felt like, yes, it does. I mean, my view of what a political discussion or philosophical or ethical discussion or whatever you want to do, just a discussion about like just being involved in the decision making. I find that enjoyable. Like these types of discussions, like talking about consequentialism, I find intrinsic value. I have a good time doing this. I think I gave him a bad answer to the question he asked yesterday, but that is what happens. Consequentialists hold in general that an act is right if and only if the act or on some views the rule under which it falls will produce. Only the act or the rule will probably produce or is intended to produce. That is interesting. So they consequentialists do care about intentions. I would have guessed that they didn't. Like if they're taking this extreme point, will probably produce, or is intended to produce a greater balance, good over evil, than any available alternative. Different consequentialist theories differ in how they define moral goods. Yeah, yeah, that's good that they can differ. Chief candidates includes pleasure, the absence of pain, the satisfaction of one's preferences, and broader notions of the general good. Yeah, these are all subjective judgments, right? Pleasure, that's for the individual to decide. Absence of pain is for the individual to decide. Satisfaction of one's preferences is certainly subjective, and here comes the others who more go for an objective morality, the general good. Well, not necessarily. This could also be like a pragmatic definition of what is considered good. I'm guessing. Like most people agree that torture and murder is something to preferably not spend a lot of time doing. Like in many cases, it goes against this. Not all cases, but like if we take a democratic approach, right? Pragmatic will ask 1,000 people and see what they say. If 999 people says that this is what they prefer, then we can use that to inform our ethics. Well, no, our politics, not our ethics. We can use it to inform our politics. Our ethics, they will not inform, will they? That's an interesting question. No. Well, does empiricism have a place within ethics discussions? I mean, it has when we're interested in facts, right? We are interested in isses, like the absence of pain. Pain, we can study pain, like with psychology and whatever. We can, if I prick you with a needle, it'll hurt. For most people. It doesn't inform the ethics. It is, we can use empiricism to, what am I trying to explain here? If I, like what Sam Harris is trying to do, right? We can use empiricism. We can study, and we can say for a fact that people report that they feel bad when they are subjected to this stimuli. It doesn't we don't derive an ought from an is. But when we already have our oughts in order, we can use these informations to, yeah, it's politics. Yeah, we can use the ethics together with empiricism to inform our politics. That is what I'm looking for. Yeah, and as well, like intended, like our intention. If our intention is to remove pain or suffering, then part of the my ethics system would have to include a searching for information, like trying to leave ignorance behind, like understanding what consequences your actions have. And understanding the consequences, that is where empiricism has its place. Understanding the consequences. Consequentialism is usually contrasted with deontological ethics, in that deontology in which rules and moral duty are central. Ooh, that's gotta be Immanuel Kant, right? Duty is Kant. If I recall, gotta read this as well. Yeah, let's go on. In that in which rules and moral duty are central. So it's not even intent, right? This is rules and duty. It's about rules and duty. Derives the rightness and wrongness of one's conduct from the character of the behavior itself rather than the outcomes of the conduct. Oh, right. I hadn't thought about that. There's a distinction, right? This looks at the consequences. I've been very focused on intent, which doesn't really fit into, intent shows up here, right? Consequentialism mainly look at the consequences, while the deontological ethics looks at the behavior itself. But how can they do that? That is going to be more focused on intent, right? Because just looking at the behavior itself, without caring about the consequences, that has got to be, intent has got to be a big deal. Character of the behavior itself rather than the outcome of the conduct. It is also contrasted with virtue ethics, which focuses on the character of the agent rather than the nature of the consequences of the act. That seems like I don't like this. Virtue ethics is a class of normative ethical theories which treat the concept of moral virtue as central to ethics. Virtue ethics is usually contrasted with two other major approaches. Normative. It's normative still. Which focuses on the character, yeah. And pragmatic ethics. I would have guessed that consequentialism and pragmatism goes hand in hand. It treats morality like science, advancing socially over the course of many lifetimes such that any moral criteria are subject to revision. John Dewey believed that some societies have progressed morally. All right, this is just saying that. Well, I'm guessing this is just saying that there are no objectives stuff, right? That it just changes over time. Treat it as a science. They look at. Actually, I'm quite curious. Let's see this. This theory of normative, which we said was the ethical behavior. Yeah, right. Philosophical ethics and metaethics. Oh, so both normative and metaethics. Ethical pragmatists such as John Dewey believe that some societies have progressed morally in much the same way they have attained progress in science. Yeah, I mean, why not just compare it with philosophy? Like philosophy has progressed, therefore ethics has progressed. I don't understand. Scientists can pursue inquiry of truth of a hypothesis and accept the hypothesis in the sense that they act as though the hypothesis were true. Nonetheless, they think that future generation can advance science, and thus future generation can refine or replace at least some of their accepted hypotheses. Ooh, I like this. I like this indeed. Similarly, ethical pragmatist thinks that norms, principles, and moral criteria are likely to be improved as a result of inquiry. Yeah, I completely agree with this. I love pragmatism. I used Neret's boat. Wait, is this another boat? What's up with all these boats in philosophy, eh? As an analogy for pragmatic ethics, likening the gradual change of ethical norms to be the reconstruction of a ship at sea by its sailors. It's based in part on the ship of Theseus. Here it used to simile in several. Okay, we are like sailors who are on the open sea and must reconstruct a ship. This is similar to what I'm talking about. Our worldview. We're building our worldview at all times, like our understanding of how the world works. Yeah. Yes, they like all pragmatisms. They don't really care about the meta ethical truth of the thing, right? They don't quite care about it. It's more like yeah, yeah, they're likely to be improved, and you can decide yourself what improved means. I'm guessing. Yeah, treat it as a science. Man, I need to see before moving forward because this became the big opposite, right? So ethics. In moral philosophy, deontology is the normative ethical theory that the morality of an action should be based on whether that action itself is right or wrong under a series of rules, rather than so murder is bad, therefore no one should murder, and we just look at the action, not killing. Like, it's not the death of the person that it is, it's the act of murdering someone that is bad. This feels naive, though. I would say, why would we consider murder bad? Well, it's because of the consequences, no? And the intent. It is sometimes described as duty, obligation, or rule based ethics. Ontological ethics is commonly contrasted to consequentialism, virtue ethics, and pragmatic ethics. In this terminology, action is more important than the consequence. The term was first used, older usage. The more general of the word is French. Depending on the system of the ontological ethics under consideration, on the system of this fucking word, man. The ontological ethics under consideration, a moral obligation may arise from an external or internal source, such as a set of rules inherent to the universe. Yeah, and that. Religious law, nope. Personal values, I would go into this here. Like if we're speaking about functional ethics, I like this as, like if we're talking about pragmatism or whatever, we're talking about for the individual. Like for the individual, like we say that, like in any situation where you act towards other people, in that very moment, you're not making an ethical or a moral value judgment. You are just acting according to your emotions and beliefs and all that, right? So, from that point of view, for the individual to be acting in accordance to any ethics or any worldview, the method should be to set a personal or cultural, well, like a personal value, right? That is how you change your behavior in accordance to any ethics. It's not about making a value judgment in the situation or whatever. It is not about thinking about the consequences of my actions. It's about building up a value system, which like the pragmatists said, like taking a scientific approach to it, building your worldview. Any of which may be in conflict with personal desires. Depends on how do you define desires. If you say urges, then, I mean, yes, people who get angry might get the urge to punch someone in the face, but I would argue that they might desire not to, even if they have the urge, especially if it goes against their personal values, right? Because I would argue that a desire that we have is to act in accordance with our personal values. That is part of our personal desires as human beings. Probably. All right. We can use that to contrast where the focus are the acts. Like, yeah, for the individual. Right? Because there is the place of the intent, right? It's easier to look at intent from a deontological personal view for the individual than consequentialism. Consequentialism is harder. It's harder to know what the consequences of your actions are. I would argue that it's necessary, and one of the duties, one of the rules is to try to understand the consequences of your actions. in that sense, virtue ethics becomes even more like virtue and deontology. What's the difference between deontological and virtue ethics then? Yeah, it is even contrasted to deontology. Why is it? Oh, right. It says that wait, no? Virtue ethics is a class of normative ethical theories in which treat the moral virtues as central to ethics. The moral virtue, what is that? It's moral excellence? Yeah, I'm guessing that virtue ethics are very objective morality focused. Consequentialism, outcomes of an action, and the concept of moral duty central. While virtue ethics does not necessarily deny the importance of goodness states of affairs or moral duties in ethics, it emphasizes moral virtue. And sometimes other concepts like eudaimonia to an extent that other theories do not. Eudaimonia. Didn't we check this just a minute ago? Happiness or well-being, a person's state of excellence. Oh, interesting. Yeah, excellence. Like feeling good is not like it's not quite it. Yeah, that's what they said. It's not quite it. It's not feeling the best way. It's being the best way. Hmm. Yeah. All right. So we have that distinction between the things. Yeah. Notice that I come from a very metaphysical background. I haven't read these well enough. Feel like now. That's a science. All right. Some argue that consequentialist theories, such as I've read about utilitarianism a lot, though. I like utilitarianism. Some argue that consequentialist theories, such as utilitarianism, and deontological theories, such as Kantian ethics, I read these a long time ago, are not necessarily mutually exclusive. I am one of those people. Like with the pragmatic view, and all of them are important. Like me taking the pragmatic stance is saying pretty much that, yeah, it's very good to contrast them towards each other, but they are not mutually exclusive. None of them are. All of them has value for ethical competency. Right? The more you've read about this, the more competent you are in ethics, which can be a good utility for an individual to build your worldview, make your own deontological, make your own rules. Like the more you've studied, the better you are at making the rules, right? That's got to be the way. For example, Scanlon, TM Scanlon. Man, I'm just thinking of Critical Role, but his name was Scanlan. Scanlan advances the idea that human rights, which are commonly considered a deontological concept, all right, can only be justified with reference to the consequences of having those rights. Yeah, that's what I said, right? Can only, I mean, I didn't use this example. I just said that you can only justify your deontological concepts by the consequences. Not only, not only. Intent matters. But it does, right? For consequentialists, intent do matter. Similarly, Robert Nozick argued for a theory that is mostly consequentialist but incorporates inevitable side constraints, which restricts the sorts of actions agents are permitted. Well, that doesn't convince me. Like, yeah, when you talk about permission, then you're talking politics, not ethics. Yeah, gotta make that distinction. Yeah, this is politics. We were talking about politics a little bit earlier, about what it is, and we had different views. But from my standpoint, this has gotta be defined as political discourse, not ethical discourse. Or, yeah. Derek Parfit argued that in practice, when understood properly, rule consequentialism, Kantian deontology, and contractualism would all end up prescribing the same behavior. That is an interesting statement. So far, it feels like I'm misunderstanding something here. Yeah, he's saying understood properly. Elitist. My way of thinking is better than your way of thinking. But like so far, like rule consequentialism. I don't know what rule consequentialism is yet. So we need to check that. But Kantian deontology, I don't remember this. It's been too long. Contractualism would all end up prescribing the same behavior. I don't like prescribing behavior. Mage Centron says, oh, hello, Mage Centron. Thought you would have left by now. We're a little bit tired for this type of discussion. It's nice that you stayed. He says, at this point in my beliefs, I think we should join each other in adventure, and only after we can share a pipe of full of beer we can properly discuss things. Mage Centron decided that it would be good for me to stick around. Oh, makes me happy. I'm hoping you are enjoying yourself. I know I am. Enjoying myself. Oh man, I quit tobacco. I think I have a friend who has the Gandalf pipe, the long pipe, and it's so tasty. The pipe that Gandalf has from the movies, that super long pipe. It is the best way. Well, it's the way to smoke that I enjoyed the most. Indeed, especially with some fine ass tobacco. Beer is conducive to these types of discussion, I would agree. We should meet in game sometime. It's a shame we cannot. Yeah, it is a shame we cannot indeed. That's the way of life, I suppose. Mage Centron says that he quit tobacco too. Oh, good on you. Tobacco. That's good on you. Bought a Gandalf pipe about a month before I quit. Yet I don't regret it. Yeah, I mean, aesthetically, I wouldn't mind buying a pipe, just hang up on the wall and then typing beneath it, "This is not a pipe." Just to be, because in that sense it would be an aesthetic, what's it called? When you make your environment pretty. Fuck. The word just ran away from me. Homemaking? It's not the word I'm looking for, but you know what I mean, hopefully. All right. I find utilitarianism super useful. It's a useful thing to think about. Like all of these are useful. I like all of them. I like that. I don't see anyone excluding any other one. Because I don't see them as... Yeah, I take the pragmatic view. They are all helpful to building ideas, and utilitarianism is the same. Made Central says, I wish you were in Gladden. I mean, I could, but it feels like starting over, and also starting over on a server that is on the other side of a big fucking ocean. Seems like a hassle and an annoyance. Main article. No, we can just go through this. It's utilitarianism, even though the word is difficult to read and difficult to pronounce. Utilitarianism. It is quite a simple philosophy, right? Nature has placed mankind under the governance of two sovereign masters, pain and pleasure. It is for them alone to point out what we ought to do, as well as to determine what we shall do. On the one hand, the standard of right and wrong; on the other, the chain of causes and effects that are fastened to their throne. They govern us in all we do, in all we say, in all we think. And that's an extreme view of it. In summary, Bentham states that people are driven by their interests and their fears, but their interests take precedence over their fears. I mean, it depends on context, I would say. Their interests are carried out in accordance with how people view the consequences that might be involved with their interests. Well, it's making it more difficult than it needs to be. Happiness, here we go. Happiness in this account is defined as the maximization of pleasure and the minimization of pain. And that is the nature of, that is utilitarianism, right? Maximize pleasure, minimize pain. I would even go so as too far to say not pleasure and pain, but utility. It's right there in the name, right? Utility is what we want to maximize. It can be argued that the existence of phenomenal consciousness and qualia is required for the experience of pleasure or pain to have an ethical significance. Wait, does someone argue that qualia is not a real thing? I thought qualia was just like an axiom in maths. It's just a useful term. Would someone argue that this is not real? At its simplest is the sentence sentience or awareness of internal. Oh, like they're talking about theory of mind. Yeah, right. Yeah, it requires the assumption. You need to assume that other people are not philosophical zombies. But oh, all right. That is consequentialist. A consequentialist idea that other people have to have an internal world similar to the one that I have. Their experience, like if they were all automatons, now we're talking about Everlasting Summer again, right? Or Westworld, rather. Like, if the machines do not have like a mind, a phenomenal consciousness, or do not have the experience of qualia, then raping and murdering and all that, from a consequentialist point of view, does not have any ethical significance. I buy that from this point of view. But if you take because if you take that is consequentialist or teleological, to be precise, that's the teleological view. Deontological would say no. No, deontological would say yes, it is your act of murder. Virtue would say, well, if you have a personality that you like murdering people, then you're not an ethical person. Pragmatism wouldn't say anything about this, I don't think. Mage Centron says it's a fair point, considering. Yeah, I feel it is. I would say that, again, from my point of view, still all of them has value. So from a consequential point of view, this makes sense. I mean, I would like to, experience Westworld, just to try and go to the dark side, go the black hat route. It feels that just the thought of it feels uncomfortable to me. It feels uncomfortable indeed. It feels dirty, but just to have the experience. And people, I could argue for that being problematic in an ethical discussion. Banana Waffle Monkey says, isn't that partly why people online act the way they do? There's the component of anonymity, but there's also the component of disconnection from the fact of the other people are, well, people. Yeah, that people goes this route, the utilitarian route, feelings that they are not real. Yeah, I agree with that. That people do that because if they haven't built like a deontology, if a person hasn't built a deontology or a virtue ethics as well, like I would argue they have built, everybody builds a deontology, right? But they don't feel they're real people, so in their view, probably, yeah, that makes sense to me, Banana Waffle Monkey, indeed. Mage Centrum says, it's a good time discussing these points. I'm glad you enjoy it. I do enjoy it as well. I don't usually get to talk about them. Yeah, a lot of people don't really enjoy these types of discussions. So that's why I'm here, to invite you in and come talk to me about these things. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy it indeed. And we have to show, like, people who don't enjoy it, we shouldn't force it upon them, I don't think. Or maybe that becomes a little bit of an political question. Should this be forced upon people? Should ethics, like, one of my political views is that ethics should indeed, like studying it, like we're doing now, not any prescriptive, not prescribing anything, just studying it, studying all of this should be part of what we learn in school, like a basic subject, like we're learning to write and read, and we should learn about these things. That is my political view on these matters, but that is just my views, right? That it's, as I said before, it's not really ethics. It's not, it's a side thing. It's another discussion, which I'm happy that I've made that distinction now, that the difference between politics and ethics makes me happy. Mage Centron says, I think it should be taught but not forced. I like the way you think, Mage Centron there. Yeah. Taught but not forced. There becomes a thin line there somewhere. Like, we're saying that we're teaching kids to read and write, but what if the kid says, I don't wanna? We say, no, you have to. Like, if we put it in the, what's the document? The syllabus. If we put this in the syllabus and kids have to go to school, then they are forced to be taught. Right? That's an interesting idea. I think I have a lower threshold, like politically, a lower threshold. Some things should be forced. Like simple maths, reading, writing, simple ethics. There is like a lower, like a baseline of what I feel that every person in society should learn. But I think I have a way lower threshold than society itself has. It's interesting. I enjoy it all, though. I agree. Simple science needs to be enforced. The facts. There we go again with the facts and the truth. That I don't agree with, I don't think. Like Wikipedia, I'm just want to show one thing. These are different theories of what truth is. Right? I think you and me, Mage Centron, have very, very... Yeah, facts are provable, right? But from my point of view, my truth is the facts, right? Facts are truth for me. But for other people don't care about facts. Right? I like pragmatism, I like whatever. But some other people have different views. Like if some person is religious, then they see the truth comes from their text, their religious text, right? And then if they have science their worldview conflicts between science and their religion, then they will pick the religion, right? Therefore, that's the discussion from yesterday as well. I think I have to agree with you, Mage Centron. Oh, there we go. That actually helps me, because as we were talking about yesterday, I felt that some things that I don't agree with the ethics, I still feel that I should. Yeah, the ethics, I don't have to agree with the ethics, but I can agree with the politics. So I would agree with the politics of that facts and science needs to be enforced in school. That's my political view. But that goes against my ethics view, which is super interesting. Because it's kind of like enforcing what is allowed to believe, which is truth. But since we don't know what truth is, like ethically, I don't see there is any way to defend those statements. But politically, that's a completely different thing. I've never thought about it in these terms before. It's super interesting. All right, children need some sort of guidance, says Banana Waffle Monkey, he thinks. And whatever guidance, it's gonna seem forced. Yeah. Yeah, you gotta force kids. That's like... Kids don't know shit about shit, right? Then we need to teach them. That's the onus of the parent and society, I think. Mid-Centron says, I think the difference between our two concepts of truth might actually be good for each other if we get to know each other. I agree. I think all the different concepts, like I am, as I said before, I'm very much for the disagreements. The disagreements make me happy as long as we can talk about them in a civil manner, which I feel we can. And I really do like where we have disagreements, because that can either you're helping me, if this is me, move towards your definitions, and I'm learning and getting better, or I'm helping you move towards mine, or more probable, we both move a bit closer to each other by the discussion, and our worldview gets improved. Like, here we go. I'm taking the pragmatic ethics, right? I'm saying that the inquiry itself, that is my views, right? From that they become improved just by the discussion itself. Mage Centron says, now you're getting it. It's like a waterfall, he says. I will always speak to you in a civil manner as a friend. I should never say always. I would never be mean to you in any way. Our job is to find a way to enjoy our friendship. That was an alarm. 1 hour. Yeah, I can stay for a little bit over half an hour more. I can stay before I need to leave. I've been having a similar. I've been having similar ideas, right? Always being civil, friendly. But I've been thinking about that quote. It's like, where the words fail, the fists show up. And as a kid, as a teenager and early 20s, I considered myself to be a pacifist. I don't anymore, though. Like, where the words don't suffice anymore, the fist will take their spot. And I can see the necessity, like the political necessity. Like, ethically, I feel that the fists are dumb. They're so dumb, they're not helpful. But politically, I can see, like, someone had to stop the Nazis. From my political point of view. From my political point of view, someone had to stop the Nazis. They had to use their fists. Made Centron says, sadly, sometimes paths split. I don't think that's sad. I think that's pretty nice, that paths split. And we go in different directions. Yeah, I think that's helpful. We go down different lines of inquiry. And then we can report to each other about where our differences lie, and we can help each other learn. So I think it's pretty good that our paths split. But it wouldn't be completely crazy to think that every path we take are ones that we've taken before. That's... Are you talking Nietzsche now? Paths that we might find familiar, my friend. I think about the person you dislike the most politically. Then consider that they were you back when you were so ignorant. Yeah. I mean, I agree with your point completely. I would say that like one of my deontologies is that my rules, it's what I try to do at least, is to never attribute malice to something that could be explained by ignorance. And everything can be explained by ignorance. Well, not everything, but you get my point. It's similar to what you're saying, right? So, yeah, the best way to find understanding and an agreement is not to antagonize people. However, like being a realist, that sometimes you cannot use words. Like if you take me up and put me in the middle of an ISIS camp, there's no way my ethics are valuable there. I cannot speak to them and come to any sort of agreement. It's not possible. Because we're too far away from each other. We've gone too far down our different paths. That we cannot talk to each other. The fists will come up. Which is sad. And I'm thinking that is why you said sad earlier when you said our paths split. Which is fair. And I agree with you there, I think. Made Sentence says that that it's fair to say that our job is to try to convince others that we need to help. And help in our best way. I mean, I like helping out. I like cooperation. I like collaboration. I like those things. I don't quite understand what you mean when you say it's our job. Like, who has given us that job? I wonder. It's in our best interest, perhaps. And yes, sometimes you have to do more than simple talking, yeah. But luckily, we only need to talk right here in this context. Learn and stuff. Sometimes it requires a force. Yeah, it does require force and a lot of force. But that's part of learning to grow. That's part of learning that we have strength too. That's a good question, says Mage Centron. Oh, fuck, I already forgot the question. All right, who gave us the job? No one did. You could just change it to it's in our best interest. That is what I did in my mind anyway. Banana Waffle Monkey says, I've been trying to use the word assist more as opposed to help or protect. I like that. Assist. Cooperate. Yeah, I like the word assist. It's also funny because it has had the word ass in it. Assist. Which makes it even more fun. Mid-Centron says, who gave us the job of having to stand up and fight back? Oh, right. That is an interesting question. Like, my first instinct right there was back to somebody had to stop the Nazis, right? Then it was the Nazis that gave us the job to stop them. But that is not how the world works. It is me, myself, who gave me that job. So then we can't say who gave us the job, since it's just my job. And it's me giving me that job. So it has to be me, right? It's all about me, number one. But think about it, Lord of the Rings, it's about join. So it forces us to think join and assist are two different things. I don't quite understand join. Yeah, join and assist are two different things, right? Banana Waffle Monkey says, I don't think it's a job. I think it's just self-preservation. Natural inclination. Yeah, but I mean, you give yourself a job, right? Something to do, something worthwhile, something to spend an effort to do, like do work in, not work as in a job, but work in, like any spent effort is considered work in that kind of sense. Like self-preservation, that is our self-preservation, which is ourselves, gives us a job, find food. If that makes sense, natural inclination. That the job is like we can have our self-preservation can give us different jobs. Like way back when it was go out and hunt, or it was go gather, or it was grow, or whatever. Now it can be I need food, so I program. I type stuff on the computer. Something like that. Made sentences, and we see Tolkien using the nature of joining as a thing that appears all the time. All right. This since I haven't read Tolkien in a long while, I don't have the same context, right? We see birds, flowers, nature, all following the leaders. Following the leaders? I don't know about that. We even see trees and flowers blooming with the passing of the heroes, right? I think, Mage Central continues, I think the reason we should stick to Lord of the Ring Online, because in the game, the concept is that the more virtuous concepts you complete, you win more points. Wait, I don't understand what you're talking about at all now. Are you saying that it's very simplistic, says Mage Centron? Like Tolkien. He continues. I mean, I didn't. I spent a little bit of time reading the story and the literature and the story of Lord of the Rings Online, and I was not impressed. And I was certainly not impressed by the ethical views that they had. The virtuous concepts, not at all. It was very authoritarian, and I don't like authoritarianistic ideals. Evil is wargs and orcs and such, the shadow. The good is the free people of Middle-earth. Yes, it's very simplistic and overly stupidly not related to our planet. But you know what? Yeah, we can learn from everything. I spent 50 hours in Everlasting Summer, and I learned things from that, even though I felt it was kinda... I mean, the ideas weren't very good. It is what we need during the holidays. Well, different people have different needs. It is the old stories that we tell ourselves to cheer ourselves up. It's dumb, I know. We're gonna end up... We haven't really made that point anyway. Was that part of virtue ethics? But yeah, I completely agree with that. Like culture and art and just stuff that has intrinsic value. I agree with that. I mean, ethics is just about what not to do to other people. That is my view of ethics. What you're talking about is life and how to have the good life. That is a completely different philosophical question. And usually I agree with you, like anything that gives you that intrinsic value of joy is a worthwhile times well spent. There we go. Like games. That's a time well spent. I agree with that. We don't need to consider every story to be super serious. I agree, totally. It's my type of enjoyment, my personal preference in my stories is I like the difficult and not necessarily serious, but I like the difficult stories with philosophy baked into them. But that's personal preference. I like Twilight, for example. I liked Everlasting Summer. They didn't have any big philosophical standpoints, but I had a good time. Made sentences. I want to talk to you about a huge amount of deep stuff. But what am I gonna say? I sort of agree with you with determinism, and I can't really argue with someone I agree with. And that is why I like disagreements. I look for them. And trust me, we will find more disagreements. We already found some. We can find some more. There's always disagreements to be found. And stories, we can disagree about the stories as well, I suppose, if we want to do those types of things. But instead, I talk about stories, and we geek out on the fact that in stories, Godzilla can be huge or small or any size. Yeah, I agree with that. And one of the reasons that I read a lot of fantasy as a teenager, a lot of fantasy, and in movies I really like sci-fi. I really like the what if questions. What if humanity looked like this? How would we work? What would we do? Just as the same way, I think that learning about all of these ideas, I think just that is helpful as well to make your worldview bigger. What if? What if there was a zombie apocalypse? What then? How would people behave? It's, what are they called? Thought experiments. I like thought experiments. We can look at the stories when they're dumb, because then we feel like, oh, I feel this is dumb. Why do I feel that? And then we can talk about that as well. That is what I like. That's the good stuff, says Mage Centron. And maybe far in the future, our oh, fuck. Okay, let's try this again. Fuck. You know, the guys who digs in the dirt and looks at old stuff. There we go. They study us and go, these people loved monsters. And we do love monsters. I'm curious, though, about future speculations. I wonder. Archaeology is turning into something you do on the internet. Servers die, information get lost. Very interesting. All right, rule consequentialism. Why did I feel this was super valuable? Yeah, someone said that they prescribe the same behavior. Right. He was talking about prescription of behavior, which makes me feel all dirty. In general, consequentialist theories focus on actions. However, they focus on consequences, no? Isn't deontology who is focusing on actions? This need not be the case. Rule consequentialism is a theory that is sometimes seen as an attempt to reconcile consequentialism with deontology. Fuck, I feel like I'm misunderstanding something again here. I had no issues with putting these two together. I felt that they fit quite nicely together. Ooh. All right, but they try to reconcile these. They're trying to put them together, or rule-based ethics. And in some cases, this is stated as a criticism of rule consequentialism. Like deontology, rule consequentialism holds that moral behavior involves following certain rules. However, rule consequentialism chooses rules based on the consequences that the selection of those rules has. Rule consequentialism exists in the forms of rule utilitarianism and rule egoism. Yeah, so I don't agree with this. It doesn't say anything about prescribing, right? Well, it's prescribing. It says that we should follow rules, that we should create rules that we follow. And I mean, that feels like a pragmatic approach, which I do like. Like it argues that we should have political discussions if we make that distinction, which I really did like that distinction between, like when we discuss the rules, then we're talking about politics, where ethics is super useful and can help us make the rules. But the rules themselves are not talking about ethics. not talking about morality. Ethics and morality is its own thing, right? Mate Centron says, old-fashioned thinking. Why not think about something a little more real? Determinism is so old and boring. I completely disagree. I kind of want to make the argument for determinism now. Have you seen Devs on Hulu? Nope, I have not. Oh, I have a better and more fun question, which is, if you truly think these are all theories, perhaps you should just believe in nihilism. Well, believe in nihilism, isn't that a contradiction in itself? Isn't nihilism just not believing? Like, what is the point? It sounds exhausting. And I don't understand. Theories are great. Like, to quote Tim Minchin, like, if you don't feel like believing in theories, if you don't think theories affect you, then you might as well stop believing in the theory of gravity and float the fuck away. But that doesn't happen, right? Theories are trying to explain reality. That is what they're doing. And theories are the ones that, like, they have enough stuff backing them to be accepted as a theory instead of calling it just a hypothesis, right? Mate Centron didn't expect me to say that. Oh? Expect me to say what? The reason I bring up theories are because there's only one that works. What is a theory? Theory is like an explanation. Like it's a... Actually, that's a good question. Theory. What does Wiki say? Do I agree with Wikipedia? Theory is a fuck all these words. Contemplative and rational type of abstract or generalizing thinking about a phenomenon. Yeah, a theory is a contemplative and rational type of abstract or generalizing thinking about a phenomenon, or the results of such thinking. Yeah. Mate Centron says that a theory is a group of study around a certain topic. It is very complex and usually means we don't know the answer. Yeah. That's the whole premise of science, right? We don't know the answer. We try to explain it. We're generalize, we're abstracting, we're rationalizing, we're contemplative. I would add empiricism as observational study and research. I would like to add them, yes, to a theory. And they do that. Like, and a theory, it has enough of these, like, theories die out if they don't have enough of the rationality, the abstractions, the explanational value. If the observations, if they don't agree with the theory, then the theory is cast aside. That's the point of science, right? Trying to cast aside the theories. Science is the pursuit of knowledge. Yeah, we're trying to understand the world, and it's a methodology. Like, it's a methodology. It's a specific methodology where we try to, we form a theory, and then we try to disprove that theory. We say, how can we show that this theory does not work? Falsifiability. Right? That's a main thing about it. And if we manage to falsify, then the theory, then we come up with another better theory that has better explanational value. But let's actually think about reality, said Centron. Oh, we're going from this to here to there, moving all over the place. I'm getting all vertigo here. I'm getting dizzy from all the jumps. Think about reality. What do people say is real that isn't? Well, it depends on your view of reality. Like, reality, as far like from a, like if we take physics and even quantum physics approach, then everything that I see as real, like this glass, I see as a real physical thing. They would say, well, it's mostly empty space and energy. So what is real? I have the Kantian view that, well, I have my reality, the things that I see and observe and whatnot. There has to be something out there that gives rise, something for me to look at and interpret. That makes sense. Made Centron makes another jump to another question here. A lot of work. Common sense, he says. Tell me what that means. I don't think it's a real thing. I think that the word, I don't like the two words put together, common sense. Because common sense kind of assumes that people are logical thinkers. Right? It says that, well, it's only logical. Like, I don't like that. I don't like that way of thinking at all, because common sense is difficult. Logic is difficult. We are emotional creatures. We are emotional creatures. That is our baseline. Then we can learn. If people force us to learn logic, then we can learn it. As kids, which I am very much politically for. Mage Centron says, okay, at least you understand things properly. I take offense to that statement. Properly. I understand things in a similar manner that you understand them. There is no properly in there. It's just that is my understanding of things at this very moment. They may change by learning and reading. Just like I have a theory of, like I have theories, internal theories, like not scientific theories. So I don't know if that's, I have a world view. I have ideas about how I think the world works. But I don't think any of those ideas are proper. I mean, I would prefer, like, think most other people, that other people had similar ideas as me, because it's becoming easier to live with them. But I would not, like, I value mine higher, but I would not put any, like, I would not look down on you for having different ideas, if that makes sense. Like, your ideas are your ideas, and they have values to you that are for you. In my worldview, your ideas is as valuable to you as mine are to me. So me saying that yours are lesser than mine, I don't like that. I don't like that. One problem though, says Mage Centron. 4 more minutes. Well, maybe 5 minutes. Then I need to go. One problem though, says Mage Centron. People want magic to be real. Well, magic is real. Haven't you seen? Look at this. Ooh, magic. Magic is real. What are you talking about? There's no supernatural, but like most of the things, like just being in this room would seem magical to a person 200 years ago. This is crazy stuff. This is all magic. And they will fight to the blood and bone to pretend it's true. They're not pretending. Like, people who will fight to the blood and bone for something They are not pretending. That you wouldn't fight to the blood and bone if you were pretending, right? Made sentence as not an idea, just how people act. I missed the context of that. I'll put it simply. Magic for most people is, please don't kill my mate or father or mother. Well, I'm guessing that's a problem with magic. Everybody has different definitions. Hmm. Hmm. And it's like, but if they fight to the blood and no, I don't understand what you mean. I mean, yeah, a lot of people have those feelings. Please don't kill my mate or father or mother. But is how is that related to magic? I don't understand. Magic is break the fucking rules because I cannot live without the actual Answer. What rules are we talking about here? Life and death. Oh yeah, fuck. I would want to see that. I would want to see that proven not to be a rule. I would want to see humanity conquer life and death. That would be amazing. But yeah, it is magic. Like I heard some biologists believe that the first person is already born that will live 1,000 years. They actually believe it. Scientists who do believe that. Which is kind of cool. I mean, I won't live to see it, but I would want to. So yeah, I would want to break the fucking rules. Banana Waffle Monk says, oh, cognitive dissonance. How do you mean, Banana Waffle Monkey? War is peace? Magic is the line that humanity draws about taking their loved ones. Magic is the line that humanity draws about taking their loved ones. No, I don't understand that at all. That is way out of my normal mode of thinking. I haven't thought about magic at all. Like we're talking about magic in the fantasy sense, not in the illusionists sense, I'm gathering. Banana Waffle Monkey says, the things we convince ourselves are true because it's easier on us or less unsettling. Is that cognitive dissonance? The things we convince ourselves are true. I mean, isn't all the things we believe to be true stuff that we convince ourselves? Mid-sentence says, sawing them in half or blowing them up in movies. It's all the same stuff. Yeah. Yeah, it's all illusion. We want the illusion to be we want the illusion to be real, eh? Good Banana Waffle Monkey seem to have the right idea. You're very prescriptive, aren't you, Mage Centron? Very prescriptive. Right idea? I take offense to that. That's the point. We talk ourselves into it. Yeah, we talk ourselves into a lot of things. Post hoc, usually. When we talk ourselves into something, it's usually post hoc. Like, first we have the emotion, and then we talk ourselves into it. Because we have to. Because our mom and dad will die. Because we will die. And we don't have a choice. And it hurts. That's the point, says Mage Centron. It does hurt. And they will die. And people reject that. People want to reject that. They want to believe that. Like, people out driving, it's never going to happen to me. I won't be in a car accident and die. Yeah. It's difficult for us humans to see those points. I'm not sure I'm convinced that it's a want. It is a bias. It is seeing someone else die is different from seeing yourself die. But the moment we stop rejecting that, we find little moments. Is that what you meant, by the way, about cognitive dissonance? Like rejecting that we will die when obviously we will all die. Our parents will die. That is the cognitive dissonance. The belief that they won't and that we won't. The moment when Cider McDread and I join each other in the Shire, says Mage Centron. No. It's the moment we realize that we accept it. And start to cherish the moments we do have. I mean, people can cherish the moments they do have even without accepting death. I think. I don't remember how it was before I accepted death. I have a terrible memory. But I do believe that people can and do cherish moments. Like tiny moments that you cherish. They happen in the now, right? It's in the now that you cherish this very moment. Like anything that will happen later is not relevant to the moment, right? But moments that maybe we wouldn't have paid attention to before the passing. So instead we can step back and enjoy it together, says Mage Centron, in little ways. Yeah, I think any person can step back and enjoy it. I don't think you need to accept death to do that. I don't think you need to accept anything. I think any person has the ability to step back and enjoy any moment. Like if we do or not is a different question, and maybe some ideas about the world helps you to be better at it, and some ways are worse at it, I suppose. Accepting death is like accepting life, says Mage Centron. They both belong to us. Yeah. There are different modes of accepting death. Like I can, like doctors and researchers trying to stave off death inevitably. No, not inevitably. Like making humans immortal. I mean, you can accept death, but still fight it. Well, when I reach this, says Mage Centron, I shall say hello. But I promise that when I do, I shall not be bitter. I promise no such thing. I have no idea. Probably not. I feel like I'm not afraid of what happens after, but death usually, like most of my things I've seen about death has been on TV though, so I don't know how trustworthy it is, but it looks fucking painful. I'm probably getting cancer like all my grandparents, and everybody else who dies around me dies in fucking cancer. And it seems like the transition from being alive to being dead, that seems painful and scary, and I don't like it. But what happens after doesn't bother me at all. The way I view it is usually that, all those memories I have from 1789. Do you have all those memories still from 1789? It's gonna be the same as that. And that doesn't scare me. The year 1789 doesn't scare me. The year 2222 doesn't scare me because I won't be there. What scares me is the transition, because I think it's painful and I don't like pain. I'm a little wuss like that. I don't like pain. Like death by fire. Oh, fuck. I mean, afterwards it's over, right? So when it's over, and that's just fine. But the transition, man, scares me. Made Centron says, I've been through far too much death to think that I'm tougher than my predecessors. But let's be honest, we're in this together. Yeah, we're in this to comfort each other. Well, maybe. Some people are, some people are not. We give ourselves our own jobs. Some people like to comfort each other. Other people just like to be annoying. And that's fine. I think. Well, I don't like it, but it's fine. I'm here to help you and hold your hand over the rainbow bridge. I like to be both. Nice. Wide range of experiences. And I had to go 10 minutes ago. So I'm in a hurry now. So I'm going to say thank you for the discussion today. It's been interesting. I've been learning a little bit more about consequentialism, which interests me. I've been learning more about the meta-ethics as well. That has been interesting again. And yeah, cheers for hanging out, and see you next time.